I think that surprises are for Christmas morning and birthdays. Most business surprises aren't good surprises. Dr. Pete, let's get after it, man. Best businesses in the world are boring. The best businesses in the world are boring. I heard my buddy, Dr. Alan Miner, one of my business partners, say that once, and I just loved that when I heard that. I was like, listen, best businesses in the world are boring. Okay, so I want to unpack that for you today because I want to recognize it's like, listen.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
What's up, Remarkables? Welcome back to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And we are stoked, as always, to be coming alongside you on this journey. What a privilege. Dr. Pete, you and I are just going 100 miles an hour coming out of a powerful week of masterminds with our Remarkable CEO coaching clients. And we love to bring the sort of greatest hits and best ofs of the week. And this one fought its way to the top. The cream rose on this one as we were sharing stories around there's a shift, there's a change in the marketplace. This is especially, we had big marketing conversations this week and people have been talking about like, oh man, it's getting tougher and harder. And it feels like the new patients are harder to find and things are getting less productive and more expensive. It's a terrible combination, right? And we've been predicting that as we go that, at the end of the day, you absolutely have to be out there in the digital marketing marketplace. You're going to have to become better at it. It's going to be more expensive. So today's conversation, we're just going to drill down on a couple of the truths that come out of there. But I just want to lead with this. One thing that what I came away with listening to, 100 chiropractors this week was there was a lot of distraction going on. There was a lot of noise going on and a lot of blinky, shiny conversations and people trying to diversify their offerings. And it was more of Dr. Peter, was more of a marketing decision than it was a clinical or philosophical decision. And you know what? I just want to just punctuate today's episode with this. The best businesses in the world are boring. I heard my buddy, Dr. Alan Miner, one of my business partners, say that once, and I just loved that when I heard that. I was like, listen, best businesses in the world are boring. Okay, so I want to unpack that for you today because I want to recognize it's like, listen, I don't want my business to be full of surprises and excitement and drama, and variance and variables. I was like, the best businesses in the world are boring. I want my personal life to be sexy and exciting, right? But I want my business to be boring. I want this steady, consistent, predictable growth. I think that surprises are for Christmas morning and birthdays. Most business surprises aren't good surprises. Dr. Pete, let's get after it, man. Best businesses in the world are boring.
Yeah, so I want to speak about something that you kind of said right at the beginning there, and I got my boxing gloves on today. Just kidding. But we're a little bit amped up about the fact is, if you look at right now, you talked about the marketing and what's going on with the marketing. We're not having a marketing conversation today. We're talking about the best businesses are boring. But I want to speak to something which is very practical, which is actually if you look at the number of people that live in, let's just call it the United States. I know we have listeners in all around the world, so I apologize, but I'm just going to talk about the U.S. for right now. But the population in the last, let's just say 10 years has grown by millions of people. And so for us to think at any point in time that what we have, our unique offering in the community has lost its relevance. There are millions and millions more people living in this country than there were 10 years ago. Millions and millions more who weren't living here 10 years ago. There are millions that weren't living here 5 years ago and are living here right now. And all of these people are actual candidates for what you have to offer. So why are you trying to change anything when there are more people than ever that need what you have to offer? So I just want to start there just to set the tone for saying, creating a building a business that's boring actually takes a lot of work. A lot of work. It actually takes a lot more work to get the drama out. It's way easier to bring drama. It takes a lot more discipline and maturity and training and to create a boring business. So this is a rich conversation, but I just wanted to start there, just to say, hey, so if anybody's like, well,
it's a math problem.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm feeling convicted about it because, and you and I, Dr. Stephen, I don't know when everybody's gonna be listening to this, but we're gonna have an immersion coming up here pretty soon about attraction in Australia and here in the US. And I'll tell you something right now. That's one of the things that I know that I'm going to be leaning into. There's more people, humans on Earth this year now than there were last year. And we got more. That means we all, just if you looked at straight up numbers, if you thought about retention or reactivation, you got more people to reactivate next year than you did this year because more people dropped out of care. So your reactivation list just grew. So you should be reactivating more people next year than this year. So you should always think, we're going to keep growing because reactivations are going to keep growing. Well, guess what? You're also going to grow. Your new people are going to be coming because there's actually more new people that we can bring in. So growth is the only option. It's the only idea that's possible. It's the only possibility. So we have to come in with this mindset, and we got to shift the way we think from the top down rather from the bottom up. And Dr. Stephen, I mean, again, and with that, let's obviously get into the discussion, but I just needed to emphasize something that you started there. So
I love that, Dr. B. This is the CEO podcast. This is a business conversation. So, let's cut to the chase here. It is about our market message. It's about our market promise, right? So if you look at it from the perspective of our USP or our unique success proposition for our patients, and I'm not misspeaking. I know the difference between a USP as a unique sales proposition. This is a unique success proposition, which is even greater, right? So it's like, because what we offer is a different objective, right? We have a different objective with our care. Ultimately, the unique success proposition that we have for our patients actually leads them to a different place, like to truly better health outcomes, a better health trajectory, a better health experience, right? And in this blood red ocean of health, this crowded and confused healthcare marketplace, truth resonates. And if you want to cut through the noise, you've got to tell that story, right? So, the chiropractic story, the chiropractic principle resonates, right? It just cuts through the noise. And you could be that one voice of truth resonating in your community if you would just get all in and get all behind that. Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and you're going to stand out in your community and tell that truth consistently and intensively, right? So I want you to get all in and all behind that and just tell it over and over and over and over. And I know for some of you right now, you're listening and you're just like, oh man, I needed to hear that. Others of you are like, well, I used to do that and it worked really well, so I stopped doing it, right? So, and others are like, yeah, you know what? You're spot on. You're dead on. I just need to lean into the chiropractic story and that message and lead with that and stay with that. Stop getting distracted, right? So I know that you may feel like, oh man, people are going to be rolling their eyes. I'm just always singing the same song. I'm always banging the same drum. The truth is you are going to get tired of your material long before your audience does. And the reality is that you are reaching 0.1% of your audience and your community every time you speak. So what are you thinking about? Just do the math on that. You need to be consistently over and over and over. The greatest companies in the world are wildly repetitious. That is what leads to penetration. That's what leads to recognition. That's what leads to getting into that marketplace as a leader, as a recognized brand. That's what's going to get you the type of response that you're going to, that you're actually going to make an impact and you're going to see a tangible difference in the business. is you've got to pick that story and lead with that story and be consistent and be repetitive and, dare I say, bore yourself to death if you just took it at face value. But what the truth is there's so much heart and purpose and mission behind that story. That may be what you need to lean in on right now. You might say, man, I've just lost some of the juice behind my messaging. I will suggest that you've taken your eye off the message, Dr. Pete.
Yeah. So as you were talking, I was thinking about, we, in our office, we teach the Better Results Faster workshop, that's one of the things that we teach. And I know, like, for me, every time I get to listen to it, right? Because we've delivered it countless times, but every time I get to listen, I just, like, inside of me, it's almost like pouring water on a garden that's just been a little bit dry recently. It's like, man, that's really good. That's really good information. Like, that's good. That's the truth. And what the thing about the truth is the more that you actually repeat it, the more that it comes out, the better it gets. And for people to hear the truth and to be able to, in a world where they're hearing a bunch of half truths or partial truths, but not the whole truth, as you said, is actually the most important thing that you can do in your business. Like, if you committed to one thing and one thing only, says, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to tell the truth every day to everybody and then see what happens. And just take that and see what would happen if you actually just told everyone the truth, the same thing over and over, and just see what happens. Like, one of the things, I tested this a lot of times, like with Table Talker, for example, because, I'd have a lot of at-bats any given week. So I was like, this week, I'm just going to say the same thing to everybody, see what happens. We gamified it sometimes because you got to do that. But I one time changed the way that I said, one of the dirty dozen is you're designed to heal. I went from saying you're healing, which is something I used to say a lot, to I said, you are healed. And I just wanted to test it. So I tested it for like 1,000 times in a week, and I said, I'm going to just change, but it's the truth. It was still the truth. Both are true. I just changed the way that I told the truth, and I said it in a different way. And I just wanted to see how it impacted the patients. But guess who it impacted more? Yours truly. What I recognized was that I was actually holding back, because I was actually creating a scenario where I was telling somebody something like you're healing, which is almost like it's slightly evading you, though. Like, you're healing, but you haven't fully arrived. Now, there's truth to that, okay? But when I said you are healed, it actually caused a shift in that relationship. It changed the dynamic. It changed the weight of what happened. And it caused the other person on the other side to actually, if they heard me, because whether they did or didn't, that's on their side. I did my best to communicate well, but it was like, wow, like, I'm healed. Like, you might walk out of that visit different that day. And that's what I noticed, was that people began to stand up a little bit taller and, just became a little bit more attentive to their treatment plan or whatever. And the result was really transformative, mainly for me first, but for the other. But what Dr. Stephen, you said was, it was a lot of repeating the same thing over and over and over again. But it took a lot of times for me to say it, for me to realize, like, Pete, you weren't actually really there. You actually weren't fully present. You didn't actually believe that. And now I had casualties along the way as a result of that, which was the people that I was laying my hands on, the people that I was leading. And so going back to this idea of telling the truth and repeating it over and over again and not getting bored, what I found is that the routine has to become something that's remarkable. And in order for it to get there, it's like, you got to put in the 10,000 hours. You got to do the reps over and over and over again, where almost it becomes this thing where it's almost spiritual in a sense, where you go beyond, it's like, how many people do you have to adjust before you like get to this level where it becomes transcendent? It's like, oh man, like I can't put my finger on it, but it's just, I'm beyond. It's that subconscious competency, like that supernatural transformational moment. And our businesses can get there if we do the right thing over and over and over again, where we get to a point where it's like, I don't know what happened, but something shifted. And it's that shift that you got to go through the boring or the monotony of the repetition to get to that like, we got to the next level. We made it to the next level. We got to the other side. And Dr. Stephen, most just don't stay in it long enough and strong enough to get there. And I don't even know if what I'm describing is landing, but I'm telling you, I feel it in me that is the essence of this transformation of, it's boring, but yet it's not. It becomes the most thrilling thing then.
That's exactly right.
That's
exactly right. It's the 1,000 bucket, the hitting 1,000 balls, right? It's 1,000 free throws, right? It is the 10,000 hours that it takes to master anything. It's the consistency. We say consistency is the new intensity, and the simplicity of it. I love how Rick Sapio says, the closer you get to monotony, the better, right? So if you think about the biggest companies you can think of right now, Federal Express, BMW, Apple, Southwest Airlines, think about these. They did one thing, said one thing, repeated it over and over and over and over again. And you know the taglines, right? So when it absolutely has to be there overnight, who is that? FedEx, no kidding. The ultimate driving machine. Who is that? BMW. Like, these monster companies, if they're saying one thing and doing one thing, right? So you just have to recognize it's like there is wisdom in that, right? So in keeping with the message, we're going to keep today super short because that's what you needed to hear, right? That was the brief. The brevity is brilliance, as DeMartini says. That's what you needed to hear right now. Doc, you need to get to that truth, to your truth, the one that lights you up, that energizes you, that brings you closer and in alignment with your purpose and your mission. And you tell that story. Stay focused. Don't get distracted. Don't get confused. If you get confused, you're going to confuse your marketplace, and confusion never converts. So simplify, be consistent, be repetitive, be redundant, be monotonous, be boring. The best businesses in the world are boring.
Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our remarkable success partner, dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy. All right, CEOs. So today I'm in the studio with Dr. Andrew Powell with Better Balance Orthotics. This is a platinum success partner that we have in the remarkable practice, and he's helping support everything we're doing on the Australia side of the world, but also here in the US. Actually, we're doing this interview and he's here on the US soil. So here you are in my zone of the world. And so it's an honor for us to have you on our CEO podcast once again. You are a repeat interview. We only bring people back that we love and that we want to hear from again because you've got good things to say. So I think we're going to have a really cool business conversation today, Dr. Andrew. Before we jump in though, tell the audience who you are, where you are, and what are you up to these days?
Sure. So, hey man, thanks for having me back. It's awesome to catch up. So yeah, like you said, Dr. Andrew Powell, I'm an Australian chiropractor, about 20 years in practice there, a little more. But here we're today to talk about our orthotics company, Better Balance Orthotics, which is just a totally different, don't be fooled by the word orthotic. It's different to anything else out there in the world. So we're excited about it. And we're excited to be bringing it to the world, really.
Ever since our interview that we had about a year ago, I've been thinking about your product. I've been really thinking about you. You really stimulate a lot of things. And guys, if you want to go back and listen, and maybe he'll talk a little bit about it today, but just the science, the neurology behind the product itself is just, it blew my mind when, as a chiropractor, you know, I think we always think a little bit differently than everybody else. We're looking for things, you know, from above down, inside out. We're not looking for anything outside in, right? So, and you were just, you really kind of blew my mind by, you know, the science, the technology, and what you were doing there with the functional side of things. So maybe talk a little bit about that today, but I also want I want you to share with us what you're up to. You're a business owner. You have multiple businesses. You're in scale mode. You're growing. This year's going to be another big year of growth for your company. So I want to talk business with you today, but maybe just a little bit about, the genesis of the business, the Better Balance. 'Cause I know this is a business that you acquired, and you've been running with now and building. So talk a little bit about that, and then I have a few more questions for you.
Okay, cool. So just real quick, I guess, this is a product I personally used in my clinic for about the last 10 years. It was created by an Australian medical doctor to treat scoliosis. And it works, it's amazing. But sadly, when he passed, he wanted someone to kind of carry on that legacy. So really, we just wanted to be able to continue to access the product. But, he said to me, look, I know this has so much value for the world, and I've just spent my life busy with my medical practice. I haven't had a chance to get it out there, and I think you're the person to do that. And funny enough, I used it in my practice for years, but I underused it. I just used it for scoliosis or plantar fasciitis, real obvious stuff, But there was this evolution. The more I used it for different things, the more I realized how many different things it helped, until I finally got to the point where it's like, everybody needs this. And it kind of blew my mind. I was talking to a chiropractic neurologist, and he said to me, I think everybody needs this. And I said, if we understand innate intelligence, how is that possible? Where does it go wrong? And he said to me, look, I don't think it ever goes wrong. It just never goes right. He's like, think about a person who ran barefoot around the jungle their whole life 10,000 years ago versus what you or I, or any other person who spent their whole life wearing shoes, walking on hard, flat surfaces. We just never get the proprioceptive stimulation that we were designed for. Right? And we know that stimulation is what lights up the brain, what fires the brain. So these are a step in that direction. There's no support in our orthotics. They're simply made to stimulate the proprioception in the feet. And when I really got that, and I really started to implement that, not just with people who had obvious problems, but really with everyone in our practice, and to teach our docs to do the same, that's when things really started to just take off for us, for our patients, for the doctors we're working with. It's really what's brought us to a point where it's like, man, we need to get these in the hands of every chiropractor on the planet.
It's good. Well, we're proud partners with you, Doc, and we are on a mission to help you help more people, which is one of the goals of our success partners, is you help our doctors help more people. So thank you for what you're doing. And I know you've got some remarkable CEOs tuning in and listening to you today. So let's talk a little bit about, now in your business, what you've been learning. So you've taken over this business now. It's a new business, new vertical for you. And you've now been in this space for a bit, and you've been learning some things. So talk to me. You said some of the interesting things going on in your business right now. I want you to share with us a little bit about what's going on in the business right now, what you're learning. We've got an audience of business-minded CEOs here. So let's talk shop.
Sure. So really, we are massively in the scaling phase of our business. It's probably been 2 years. The first thing we did was we looked at everything with the business and went, what are all the things that kind of suck here, and how can we fix them? So we rebranded, we made it easier for our docs, we made it easier for them to order. Because I'd been using the product for a long time, it was kind of easy to go, well, here's all the things I don't like about this, and just do our best to make it seamless and smooth as possible. And, I think we're at a point where we're pretty good with that. So now it really becomes about scale and adoption. So we're learning about how to communicate about this. And I guess the big lesson I've learned is it's one thing to get your products in people's hands. It's one thing, and docs get it. They stand on these, they feel them, you tell them about them. We're chiropractors, they get it. They go, man, this is cool. But then you'll have one practice that just takes off like a rocket. They're ordering 10 pairs a week. And you have another practice and they're ordering 3 pairs a year. And it was like, well, what's the difference here? And so I guess that's been the next thing for us to really figure out is, we know we've got this incredible product, but how do we build communication systems with our docs and for them to communicate with their patients? And then systems, how do we just build it into a practice so that's part of their initial exam, part of their report of findings, part of their care plan? It's just part of the whole thing. How do we make that seamless? Because when people really nail that down, it becomes pretty effortless. So I guess scale and communication have been the big business focuses for us recently.
Well, you said something when we were chatting before we actually pressed record here, and you said a statement that really struck me. You said, not using it to its fullest extent. You used that phrase, and I thought, how much of us, when you think about your life, think about a team member, and you ask the question, are you using this person? Using is probably the wrong word, but are you leveraging this person's skills, time, energy, and focus to the fullest extent? Are you, if you think about your office space, you think about capacity blocks, different things that, blocks to growth. Are you truly using it to its fullest extent? You think about your schedule. Are you really using your schedule to its fullest extent? When you made that statement, I thought, man, what an important question to ask. What an important revelation that you've had, a discovery. And you said, you know what? These doctors and these clinics, they're not using this product to its fullest extent. And that was the real discovery. And I thought, man, that as CEOs, as we think about our business, we analyze our team, we analyze our marketing, our systems, our process, our product. And you're talking about a product, and chiropractic is a product, and the Better Balance Orthotics are a product within the context of your product. They become part of the package if you choose to do it that way, right? So you identified that there was this lack of using it to its fullest extent. And you said two things needed to shift. And I want you to talk about these right now. One was education, and number two is systems. So when you talk about scaling, any practitioner who can take any product and take it to the next level, those were two things that I believe across the board apply. Can you talk about that shift that's happening right now in the consciousness for you, and then now for the consciousness for your docs, and what kind of outcomes they're starting to see there?
Yeah, because it's so true, right? Sometimes we're looking outside ourselves for the next big thing, and it's like, it's right here. We just need to make use of what we've got. So definitely communication was the first part, right? Communicating with our docs and helping them communicate with our patients. And to be honest, I think sometimes communication just comes down to practice and finding what works. What was the magic thing for us? We did something called the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival in Sydney. And it's like a huge 4-day convention of, everything weird and wonderful, crystals and all sorts of healers and whatever, the whole mind, body, spirit thing. And we thought, hey, let's just give this a go, right? It was the first time I'd ever tried to present our orthotics directly to the public, not in a practice situation. And so you got thousands of people walking past. And so I kind of had to just nail down that 5-minute spiel, right? These are cold people. They don't know anything about chiropractic or me. They've never met me before. And you've got to be able to communicate in a way that they get it and that they walk out with your product. And we did that really successfully. And that kind of brought down to me, it's not about over communicating, but just finding a few simple metaphors that really work. So a lot of them, for example, I'd say, hey, if you had back pain and you wore a back brace every day, would that fix your back problem? Right? And clearly, wouldn't your back might feel better, but it's not fixing the problem. I said, well, that's what regular orthotics are doing for your feet. Right? It's like wearing a back brace on your feet every day. Here's how our orthotics are different. And that was one of those little phrases that just clicked for people. I was like, oh man, as soon as you put it in that context, they're like right there with you. So finding those key, you don't have to over communicate, but just finding those key things that really communicate the message clearly is so valuable. Once we kind of brought that back, that was one of the things that really allowed things just to take off.
Awesome. So obviously I want our doctors to be able to learn more about you, your product, and hopefully get it into their hands. So you're going to obviously you have folks listening from all over the world at this point, on the podcast. So tell us a little bit more about, where you guys are at, what you're up to this year, and how to get in contact with you, learn more, and maybe even stay on the watch list if and when the things start opening up for you in other regions of the world. I'd love to hear that from you.
Yeah, so like you said, the other thing is really about systems, so that's just what we're working on, systems for using them to practice, systems for getting them across the world. So, we absolutely are working on coming to the States. We're in talks right now with some partners who are super excited to be part of that journey. Obviously, there's lots of regulation and lots of supply chain and stuff going on with that. So that's what we're here to work out at the moment, but hopefully that's happening this year. So if people want to get hold of us, the easiest thing is really just to email my wife, Jody. It's at info@betterbalanceorthotics.com. And, shoot us a message. We are talking with docs in the States right now. I've fitted a bunch of docs, the first step with everything, right? Part of our system, get it on the doc's feet first, then have them fit their family and their team, and then go to the patients. We found once you feel it, you own it, that's the best place to start. So even before we're kind of commercially into the States, if you'd like to check them out for yourself, get them on your own feet, like we were talking about, we just fit Steve and Sebastian, we figure the more docs who are wearing these, the better for us and the better for you. So yeah, we'd love to do that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for meeting up with me today and for being an awesome guest on our podcast and a remarkable success partner and helping doctors help more people. So we really appreciate you. We're rooting for you and your business and what you're doing to help humanity. Thank you for all your work and look forward to seeing you soon. And again, appreciate all that you're doing for chiropractic and chiropractors and remarkable practice as well. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right, friends. So that is an awesome interview and awesome time I've had here with Dr. Andrew Powell. So check him out. And to learn more, go to email info@betterbalanceorthotics.com. You can talk to Dr. Andrew's wife, Jody, and they'll help you out there, answer any of your questions. And I also encourage all of you to remember to tune in next week for the next episode of the Remarkable CEO podcast. Until then, God bless and have a wonderful week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.